Chapter 2 begins with a review from Algebra 1 about perpendicularity. It starts with a definition about what two lines are when they are perpendicular. They are two lines, rays, or segments that intersect to form right angles. We can show perpendicular lines by a few different ways. The first is simply on the diagram, to mark it with a little small box in the corner, which will designate our right angle, or 90 degrees. Another way to show perpendicular lines is to show it with an upside down T, the perpendicular sign, that shows the two rays, lines, or segments. And finally, the third is to actually mark the angle as 90 degrees. Let's look at one of your homework problems, number 6. It's a proof problem that uses perpendicularity. The first part is the given, showing that line A is perpendicular to line B. And what we are trying to do is show that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. We start by the given. We know that line A is perpendicular to line B. Again, the reasoning is given. From there, we know that angle 1 forms a right angle. We also know that angle 2 is a right angle. The reason for this is the definition of perpendicularity. If two lines are perpendicular, then they form a right angle. Since it is the same for 2 and 3, we don't need to rewrite it. We can simply say same as 2. Finally, we can go to our conclusion. We can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. The reason for this goes back to one of our theorems in the first chapter of if two angles are right angles, then they are congruent. Please note that in number 2 and number 4, the format in which I wrote this, I started each of these clauses with if, and then wrote with the conclusion the then. Also notice the order. In number 2, I have if two lines are perpendicular, and I used perpendicular because perpendicular was supported already in a previous statement, where the then clause to form a right angle is what I am establishing. Section 2.2 talks about complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. While supplementary angles is two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. Notice again that complementary refers to 90 degrees, which is a right angle. So if we had two angles that form this, and this angle is 30 degrees, the complementary of this angle would be 60. Supplementary refers to 180 degrees, which is a straight line. So if we had two angles that split this into two angles, and this angle was 20 degrees, the supplementary angle would be 160 degrees. Example 1 takes a look at a complementary angle. If we have one of two complementary angles is 2 more than 1/3 of the other, we need to find both the angles. It helps to draw a diagram to kind of visualize what is going on. Complementary angles refer to 90 degrees, so let's draw a 90-degree angle. Since you know there are two angles, we'll show a split. We don't necessarily know they're equal, so we might have to tweak our diagram a little later. It says that one of the angles is 2 more than 1/3 of the other. We don't know the other, so we'll label that one as X. And we know that the other one is 1/3 of it plus 2. So the measurement of angle 1 is 1/3 X plus 2, where the measurement of angle 2 is simply X. Since they are complementary, we know that their sums will equal 90 degrees. So we'll take the measurements of both and add them together. And then from there, it's an algebraic equation. X plus 1/3 X will be 4/3 X. We'll subtract the 2. We'll multiply by the reciprocal and get 66. Since X is 66, that means that measure of angle 2 equals 66 degrees. Now, there are two ways you can go about finding measure of angle 1. You can simply subtract from 90, or you can plug it in, which would be 24 degrees. Question number 2 again asks us about complementary angles. One of two complementary angles added to 2/5, the other is 72 degrees. We are asked to find the larger of the two angles. Again, it helps to draw a diagram to think about what we are looking at. We have a 90-degree angle that will be split into two angles. We don't exactly know what the two angles are, so let's call them angle X and angle Y. Think about what that means. X plus Y equals 90 degrees. Let's put them in the same terms. So if I get Y by itself, it's 90 minus X. Therefore, instead of saying angle Y, we can then say angle 90 minus X. This will help us set up a simpler algebraic equation. Going back to the top and reading the question again, one of the complementary angles, we'll start with X, is added to 2/5 the other angle. And that is 72. Now, without changing it, if we just think about it, it would be one angle plus 2/5 the other, so 2/5 Y equals 72. And what we did there, again, is we changed this angle and then used substitution in order to solve. You can distribute the 2/5. Combine like terms. Bring the 36 to the other side. Multiply by the reciprocal and get X equals 60. If X equals 60, Y would have to be 30 in order to be the complement. It's asking us to find the larger angle, therefore the larger angle would be 60 degrees. In this last problem, it talks about supplement and complement angles, stating the supplement of an angle is 12 more than twice its complement. Again, let's visually look at what this would look like. Here we have a straight angle. Here we have our right angle. Again, supplement would mean two angles. Complement would also be two angles. Think about what this is saying. The supplement of the angle is 12 more than its complement. So assuming that we're talking about the same angle, the complement is going to be y, and the supplement is going to be 12 more than twice the complement. Now, from here we can do a few different things. We can state that 12 plus 2y plus x equals 180 degrees, since it's a straight angle. We can also say that x plus y equals 90 degrees. We can go ahead and simplify and rearrange some of these statements. And if you notice, we now have two equations with two variables. Therefore, we can use substitution or elimination to solve the system. I will subtract, the x's will cancel, and we get y equals 78. If y equals 78, x will have to equal 12. And the supplement would be 2 times 78 plus 12, which would equal 168, or 12 minus 180. Sorry, 180 minus 12.